Welcome to Mid-South Money. On this show, we talk to the movers and shakers, the who's who of Memphis and the greater Mid-South, entrepreneurs, innovators, influencers, politicians, athletes and coaches, nonprofit and business leaders. If you want to know how the money flows, please stay tuned.
Welcome to Mid-South Money. I'm your host, Harvey Cook, and I thank you for tuning in. We're honored to have as our first guest on the show legendary champion golfer and local businessman Tim Jackson. Tim's golf career is long and very distinguished. He's won numerous championships on the international, national, state, and local levels. He's represented the United States as a member of the 1995 and 1999 U.S. Walker Cup team, has played in the Masters twice, and has been named Tennessee Player of the Year 9 times. In addition to Tim's accomplishments on the course, he has many accomplishments off the course as well. A native of Memphis, Tim earned an accounting degree from the University of Tennessee at Martin and a CPA there as well. Tim is very entrepreneurial, having been the president of Spartan Food Service and Car Wash USA Express, and a general partner in over 30 real estate partnerships. It's a great pleasure to have Tim on Mid-South Money. Tim, welcome.
Thank you, Harvey. Good to be here.
Glad to see you.
Yes, sir.
First question, you apparently have a great love of playing golf, very passionate about it. What brought that out in you?
Well, I think for me, starting out as a youngster, it was difficult for me. It's a hard game. And all the traditional sports, baseball, basketball, football, sort of came a little natural to me. And when I stumbled on the golf and took my first few swings, it was very difficult. And I think that's what kind of hooked me.
I'm glad to hear somebody at your level say how difficult it is. So is it true that, and I've heard this story, that you started playing golf when you were 16 years old and as a result of a baseball game that got rained out or something like that?
That's, my father played. He was just a weekend golfer, and I'd see the golf clubs around in the garage and kind of pick them up and swing them and, go to driving range when I was probably 10 or 11. But for the most part, I was a competitive baseball player. And so a group of us went out on a rain out one day and went to a driving range where you pick the old clubs, leaned up against the wall. I didn't even have, so I just kind of picked one of those up. And it was just like magic almost. It was from that point, I thought, I've done this baseball now since I was 8 or 9 years old. I was 16 or 17. This might be something I could really get into.
So when you were at UT Martin, did you play golf there or baseball?
No, actually, I played golf at Murray State. I went to Murray State for 2 years on the golf team. I'd started playing when I was 16, so I got proficient enough to earn a partial scholarship there. Went to Murray. I actually made my freshman year, I made the traveling squad. I played my first college tournament was at LSU, so I had some good exposure. But it was quickly apparent that I was way behind the curve. I wasn't going to get good enough to play on the PGA Tour. And so I kind of refocused my energies and on my college education and got my degree and went into public accounting, went to work for KPMG and then was in private practice. And then when I was about 27 or 28, I started competing on the state level.
So was that like a conscious decision? Did you say, I'm going to wait a while until I get better? Or is it just something that happened? Well,
it was sort of a combination of getting established in my work career,
I see.
Getting established financially, and then doing something that I love doing, kind of in my off time where we're busy in the fall and the winter, from May through October. Schedule's pretty open, so it's kind of when most of the golf tournaments are played.
I gave your resume in the introduction, which is pretty amazing. So you've had a long career in golf already. Do you have any favorite memories you'd like to share?
I will just tell you that the game has given me so much. I couldn't even begin to do an accounting of that as far as what I've benefited from personally and my family. Everything from, when you winning that first state amateur to, having to make a putt to go to the Masters. Those are all things that I'll never forget, But I think for me, representing my country, by making the Walker Cup team twice was the highest honor for me, and the thing that I enjoyed the most.
And maybe you'd take just a second and explain what the Walker Cup is.
Well, the Walker Cup is the amateur equivalent of the Ryder Cup, which is the professional side, where you have the top 10 U.S. amateurs play a match against the top 10 amateurs from Great Britain and Ireland. But everything that goes into that, the week leading up to it, with all the functions and the dinners, and you're an ambassador for your country, and so I was really fortunate. I was in my 30s, so I was full grown. I had children. I was in business, and so to me it resonated more what it really was, more so than the younger guys like Tiger and Matt Kuchar, my other teammates, that maybe hadn't had those life experiences yet to represent your country.
Tim, golf is a pretty expensive game to play, as we all know, and we live in a city that is economically challenged in some areas. Do you have any thoughts about how to make golf more accessible to more people that don't come from family of means?
Well, I personally, and we have these, I'm involved with the Tennessee Golf Foundation and the Tennessee Golf Association, and this has been an ongoing discussion since the .com bust in 2000. Golf has been on a gradual decline. In 2000, we had 42,000 golfers with handicaps in the state of Tennessee. Today, we have 32,000. Wow. So we've never come back to that pre-2000 level. I think it's grassroots. Personally, I think in Memphis, if you're the owner of a golf course or a golf professional, I think they should be in schools. The growth of the game is women and juniors, and the traditional model of golf and golf courses is totally different today than what it was 25, 30 years ago. There's the man he's not going to the club on Friday afternoons and spending weekends out there. The family's more important. The work day's different. Everybody's wired. So it's a lot more difficult. I would to your viewers, I would have you go and look at Tennessee Golf Foundation, Tennessee Golf Association websites and see what we're doing on a statewide basis. A lot of good impetus to introduce the game to middle school kids. We run the Middle Tennessee, the middle school golf championship. We do rules for the TSSAA championship. But I think to grow the game, the golf course setups today, we need a smaller facility with the emphasis on teaching, etiquette, and then maybe a user-friendly 9-hole golf course that people can get around and enjoy in a short period of time.
Right. Tim, we mentioned your great passion for golf. Tell us how that's translated into your business success.
Well, the characteristics that you need to be a successful championship level golfer, those same characteristics apply in being in business and running a business. It takes, you got to be organized. You got to be able to multitask and be able to work on different things at the same time. Have a lot of balls up in the air, and be able to focus. I think that's and be disciplined. So I think all of those attributes. For me, I guess golf came first, and then business, and it was just an easy transition to move over into that. Of course, there are a lot of other things that go with that. I would tell you viewers that, having mentors and reaching out to other people and networking is invaluable. Not every one individual has all the answers. We need other people in our life to support us and prop us up and help give us some guidance and be able to bounce things off of. And I was lucky I had a father that he and I were, like that, and that really made it easy for me. He was in business. His father was in business, so it was just something natural that we talked about around the house.
Tim, I hope that a lot of school age youngsters will be watching this show. What would you tell them about how your college experience has helped you in terms of your business experience?
Well, I would tell you that going to college is not a deadlock guarantee that you're going to be successful. I told both my sons, they're both grown and out, a college education teaches you how to think. And you're going to meet people in your college years that are going to be friends for the rest of your life. So it's a good social place to be. But when you come out of college, you really don't know anything. When you go into industry, I can remember going to accounting. I had all this theoretical knowledge about accounting, but I had no practical experience on how to apply that. So you don't know anything. You just have to get in there. And through years and years of taking projects on and doing various things, same thing in the investment business, it just takes experience to mold the two together. But I can't emphasize the importance of education. That's the foundation building blocks that you got to have.
Tim, would you talk a little bit about what you consider to be the joys and frustrations of running your own business?
Well, for me, I enjoy sitting down and putting a plan together, with your projections and your pro formas, and then talking to the operations people and getting input from them and putting a plan together, and see that plan over a period of 5, 6, 7 years start to play out and fall into place, and then sometimes even exceed your original expectations. There's nothing that can take the place of that for me. I mean, to me, that's the ultimate in business. Being able to plot, particularly a startup, something brand new. It's different when you kind of come into a business that's already there, but in a startup situation, doing all that initial due diligence and putting it together, and it comes together, that's the best.
We mentioned in the intro that you have a lot of other businesses, that you've had a lot, and you're playing golf all over the country, in many cases all over the world. How do you juggle all that?
Well, I think it just gets back to that skill set that I was lucky enough to develop early on. My wife always tell me, she'd say, well, I think you're going to play good this week because you got more going on than you can.
Right.
And so, I think having a lot going on either personally or with my business interest took my mind off the technical thoughts that you can have in golf, and it freed me up to play better. I just think it's just my makeup. I can remember when I was in public accounting, from March 15th to April 15th, we'd be focusing on, the individual returns. And I can just remember my office, just having stacks and stacks and stacks all the way around my office of files. And I could tell you what every stack was and what the status of that job was. And I need a W-2 from this one, and I need,
Right.
a brokerage statement from this one, or what. It was just a skill set that I was just lucky to be blessed with.
Tim, again, I hope a lot of students are going to watch this show. Do you have any career advice for them that you think might be useful?
Well, always put your best foot forward. If you're coming in for a job interview, the things that I'm looking for outside of your resume and what your experiences are. But if it's an introductory position, maybe your first job, make a good physical impression. I'm sort of drawn to people that look in the eye when they're talking to you, shake their hand, will engage with you, and actually, where you can tell that they're actually really plugged in and they're really listening to what's being said and what we're talking about. A lot of folks they come in, they're not prepared. They're in talking to you about a job, but they really don't know much about your company. They don't know much about, what it is that they want to do. So, get that piece put together. And because when I was interviewing people, that was one of the first things that I sort of honed in on. Networking, picking good friends. I mean, that is so key and critical in your development as you're coming out of high school into college. We all know the people that that we've been hanging out with that we probably don't need to hang out with, going forward. If you're setting goals to go to college or goals past college, a lot of times you have to move on and make new friends and a new group of people, kind of birds of a feather sort of concept. So I think those are critical areas, small things, but things that can make a big difference.
And a lot of people that hopefully are going to watch this show are parents, and you've got a couple of children yourself. Do you have any advice for them in the way they lead their children in terms of going to college, in terms of a career?
I think something that gets overlooked in the family. Of course, families can, we all have sort of some level of dysfunction or lack of communication within our family. But I would just tell you that there is a ton of young people today, smart young people, that are financially illiterate. So I think having good conversations in the house about money, my dad would tell me all the time, what he had going on and, this deal he was working on and what it was going to mean financially. And so that, even down to, get the checkbook out and show me how to balance a checkbook, just something that basic. I think those are critical discussions that will prepare kids to be financially responsible.
Great advice on that. Tim, you never played golf professionally, but you have played, as we mentioned, at a world-class level. Is there any advice that you might have to young athletes who are really good at whatever sport they play in terms of thinking about their future in playing sports?
Absolutely. There's not enough hours in the day. There's not enough work to be done. You've got to be, if you're a football player, basketball player, then obviously you're paying a close attention to your body. You've got to eat right. You've got to sleep right. You've got to have a proper workout regimen. With golf, my sport, there's just so many facets to the game. There's 7 or 8 areas, putting, chipping, short game, short irons, long irons, driver. There's so many aspects that have to be practiced. And so it helps you to, be organized and, have a goal when you go out to practice. What is it you want to accomplish here today? You don't need to spend 8 hours a day out banging golf balls or throwing footballs, but organize your practice sessions in your mind ahead of time and go accomplish what that is that you want to do today, and stay focused on it. Do not let your own don't have a mental block that will not allow you to dream as big as you can dream. Because I'm telling you, if you have the drive and the ambition, your level of dream, that's the only thing that's holding you back. And that's part of living in this country. We've got everything available to us, and it's just up to us to go get it.
Those are great thoughts. That really are. Before we wrap up, is there anybody throughout your career, any professional golfers who our viewers might know because they see them on TV all the time now? Mm-hmm. Is there anybody that you played with that stood out in your mind for whatever reason, because they were better than everybody else, or they were more focused?
Well, I've been lucky to play with you know, the guys that are playing out there now, and they're guys in their mid-30s to 40s. Or I pretty much played with all those guys in amateur golf. A lot of the younger kids, not so much. But, you know, I played with Tiger, several rounds with Tiger. You know, it was obvious from the second shot that he hit, it was different. It made a different sound. He was different. I mean, he was, you know, he's a generational type individual.
Right.
You know, I played with John Daly and, you know, guys like that, Fuzzy Zeller, you know, outgoing, you know, personalities. Played with Lauren Roberts, who's a local guy, who's more of a low-key, down-to-earth type. You know, a bunch of them. I would say, though, the most enjoyable round that I've ever played with one of these, you know, one of the top-level professional golfers. And it's not so much, you know, of his personality. It was just, for me, watching him go through his craft, and that was Bernhard Langer. I played a practice round with him at the Masters, and your yardage books are all pretty much done in yards. Well, he had modified his yardage book to where his yardage book was in thirds of a yard.
Really?
So, you know, if I calculated I've got 140 yards to the front edge of the green, well, his yardage book would say 139 1/3. You know, and that was his way of being more precise. And so that to me, I thought that was neat.
It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Thank you. And thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you have any questions for our guest or questions about the show, please feel free to contact us at 901-766-7769 or harvey.cook@raymondjames.com is my email.